Another package. I opened it already. The new wiring harness came in. It looks good. And we got the cap for a freaking fuse box. Good deal. I get to tear the bike back down. And of course, out of excitement to get stuff done, I didn't film it. And I went ahead and rolled the bike back outside. And I had left fuel in the carbs overnight just to see what would happen. And everything was just as I left it. And I went to fire it up and it fired right up. So that's good. And it does shift still in 2 seconds. The clutch does work. Let go of the clutch lever and it does engage the wheel. It does drive it, but it will not shift into first or third. So I need to pull the clutch cover back off, probably pull the clutch basket and all that, the whole assembly, and then look real hard at the shift cam and shift shaft assembly and see what is hanging up there. What else we got? I got a leak in this carburetor, so I need to pull the rack back off one more time, pull that off and see if either the gasket has just got a kink in it or if I can seal it up temporarily with some gaskets maker or sealant until I can get a full carb rebuild kit here, as it is running kind of rumbly, and that's possibly because it just keeps spewing fuel everywhere in that carburetor. I need to get, let's see, a little piece of hose for the petcock side of the vacuum line to shore it up a little bit, because it's like I don't know, 1/8 inch, maybe a little bit bigger, 3/16, and this is like 5/16. So this side fits on there pretty good. This is the tightest hose I could find that would fit on that guy, and it still is pretty loose on the petcock side. It's enough, but going down the road, vibrations and shaking, it'll just, get knocked loose because it plugs in from the bottom up. You can look in there, see that guy right there? That is the vacuum line. And it's just so loose that it doesn't matter. If I were to reach in there with my pliers and lift that clamp up and put it in place, it's just, it's too loose and wobbly. So I got to get that sorted out. And like I said, I'll just use like a piece of smaller, much smaller hose and put it on the little nipple that the hose is plugged into, and then plug the hose on top of that so it shores up the gap there. And airbox should be here tomorrow or the next day. My grips should be here tomorrow or the next day. And except for lights, that's it for now. And I've been contemplating either building or getting the OEM side covers to just cover all this crap up. And I still am torn whether I want to get an OEM tail tray or make one out of sheet metal in some fashion. But yeah, now I gotta tear it apart and swap in the new wiring harness, so y'all bear with me. Stupid thing. I said record, not stop. Alright, got the seat off, tank off. Everything is disconnected over here. I've got a couple of zippy ties to clip off right here. I just kind of stuck all those on there temporary like, so I could just see if the bike would run. Alright. I'm gonna have to do something before I ride it with that, at least that battery, so it's kind of supported. Yeehaw. On to installing the new one. Alright, got the new wiring harness all installed. and put everything back together so I could get some fuel back in the carburetors. Even though that one is still leaking, I just wanted to prove that this new wiring harness didn't have no problems. Wouldn't be arcing shit everywhere, popping fuses like the other one was. And everything lit up like it was supposed to. We even have the connectors for the headlight, the tail light, and the rear turn signals, and one of the front turn signals. The other side seems to be missing. I'm not sure what the heck happened with that. Hopefully it's broken off somewhere up inside the harness and I can rebuild that. But I've got no spark. It kicks on, all the alarms that are supposed to light up. Clutch safety switch works, so I got to pull in the clutch, and starter spins over, and it won't spin with that in the off position, so that was in the on position, so that wasn't the excuse. So I even switched around, changed the leads on the coils to see if I had them backwards, and no, that wasn't it. Checked my fuse box, make sure everything that was supposed to be getting power is getting power, and it is correct. So I started thinking, I'm like, you know what? That's a brand new ignition switch, and I hadn't proved it out and didn't test to make sure that it had the freaking 100 ohms resistance that it was supposed to for the anti-theft system on these machines. So I just pulled everything back loose to get that off and tested it, and in the on position, it is wide open. Zero resistance. So that does not have the resistor in it, which is why it will not spark, but everything else seems to be beautiful. So I need to sort out either finding the right switch for it or coming up with a resistor so I could just freaking solder it in line. But that's where we're at right now. Alright, since this thing, this is the old ignition switch, since it has a resistor in it, and I just tested it with the ohm meter and it reads good right at 100 ohms. The other one does not, for sure, have a resistor at all, and the resistor is inside this thing, and when I'm playing the game is called I Win. I grabbed my drill and I grabbed some drill bits and I went to drilling, and I drilled the security rivets out of the bottom of the cap so it can come off, and then that guy can come out. That's garbage. And then that guy can come out, because we need that resistor right there. Windowsill soldering station here. Our trusty dusty cheap $5 Walmart soldering iron did a wonderful job of removing the resistor. Alright, went and fished out my heat shrink tubing from the pickup, the burrito, which is a mess right now, so that was fun, and my good electrical pliers and my ultra gray tube so I can seal up that carburetor. And I went ahead and prepped this by taking the sheathing and just pushing it back, and I'm going to put that resistor right about there, solder it in, and then protect it with a couple pieces of heat shrink, and that should be it. We should get spark again. Alright, for this little bitty wire, this stuff is just way too freaking big. I mean, it's just about as big as the wire with the insulator. You don't want to use that. You're going to use something smaller, like that little guy. You can pick these up for like $5. It's just a little coiled tube of solder, much smaller. And that's how I like to prep my resistors if I'm going straight to a wire. I twist the wire around, make a barrel, and then stick it in. Alright, you got the first side of the resistor soldered on. And I soldered the crap out of them if they're going to be in a vibratory environment. And I got my first sheath of shrink tubing on. And here is the second sheath of shrink tubing going on over the first one. And now I need to strip and solder the other side. Alright, other side soldered together. Heat shrink in place and shrunk down. Now I can put the sheath back in place and go test it, see if we got spark. Alright, hooking it in. Clicky click. Alright, ignition was already on. And it has power going to stuff, so that's a good sign. And it turns it off when I turn it off. That's a good sign. Turn it back on. Alright. Let's see if we got spark. Yeehaw! Alright, carb's back off. Now that we have the electrical system on the bike all sorted out, we need to get that leak sorted out. And looking at it, immediately I found what was wrong. And when I took the bowl off, you notice something missing in that groove right there? Yeah, because that little guy was laying in the grass right there from when I had pulled everything apart before and put it all back together. I just didn't notice that it wasn't there. So I'll put it back on, and that should cure our little leak from the float bowl, and that should be sorted out. Alright, move it again so I can set it on the side stand instead of having to keep putting it up on the main stand. All back together. And you hear it's clicking. It's cooling down. Alright, we are in the fuel regular on run position, vacuum operated, and no leaky. So actually putting the gasket in the carburetor, in between the bowl and the carburetor, is a good thing. You should pay attention when you're putting these things back together. So that's sorted out. Fuel gauge works. Yeehaw! I've still got a little bit of tuning to do. Once it balances out, it's going to be idling at just about $2,000, and I need it to idle at like 1100 or so. And you hear what sounds like exhaust leaks. They're not really leaks, they are quirks. So I can find one right there. There's that one, and then another one. So there's one of those for each cylinder, and it did have what they call the AIR recovery system on it, and that's like an emissions thing. And there are little pipes that go onto those studs, and there's little nuts that hold the plates onto the head, and then there's little pipes that go up and then back, and they would be going to an air valve that would redirect that back into the intake for California emissions crap. But what I'm going to do is cut those little things off and just weld up the hole and stick them back on, and bang, that little poppy is cured. And then we're on to carb tuning, but most of that will be handled with the airbox. It should be here tomorrow or the next day. And that's it. We're on to lights. And then whatever's going on with the shift cam assembly. I can still only get it into second gear. It won't go into third, and it won't go down into first.